Up next, Mr. Bob Lockhart. He's flown 35 hours to be here. He's coming from Dallas, Texas. He's the VP of Cybersecurity, Technology and Research, Utilities Technology Council in the United States. Bob is managing currently the UTC's program of work for utility security and convergence, plus he oversees UTC's market research activities. He's here to talk about what we don't know we don't know. So I'd like to welcome Bob onto the stage. Thanks so much for being here.
I just knew when Tebe was speaking, they were going to have me follow him. So there's no pressure. I have a very short talk, and it is about thinking differently. And I'm in the utility industry, and it's about keeping the lights on. And so that's Dallas, Texas, where I live, and the lights are on. Now, I do want to be honest, it's not really that pretty. That has definitely been photoshopped. Okay. But the lights are on, and Encore is doing a good job, and we're happy. And if you know what Dallas is like, it has some similarity to here. Its water is very difficult to come by. How they found that much water to take a picture in Dallas, I don't know. What should I be pointing this at? There we go. So about me, that's where my heart is. That's in Guatemala. I do a humanitarian trip every year to go help build stoves and give medical care to the local people there. Justin's already introduced me as a professional, but if you want to talk to me afterwards, I'd rather talk about that than the other stuff, but I'm happy to talk about utilities too. So I'm a real person. I love that photo, and I had to put it in here. Okay, so let me back up first. What I want to try and get across here is thinking about security, because that's what I do, in sort of a whole mindset, a whole team, a whole utility concept. And I like to start with these two slides called Spot the Problem. And it's a security problem. So I'm going to say, I'm going to put this slide up, and I want to see if you can spot a security problem. This is from a live TV interview. Anybody see a problem there? Okay. So probably, that's ESPN, so probably 300, 400, 500,000 people are watching that. It's a shame, too, because those are really strong passwords. It's kind of a shame that he divulged those. But that photo is a classic among security geeks in the U.S. We all have that stored somewhere on our hard drives. So that's easy, right? You say, what's a security problem? You should not make your password. You shouldn't have it taped on your wall. You should definitely not have it taped on your wall if you're going to be on national TV. Now, next one is harder. What's the security problem here? It's hard to see. But here's the deal. I did not say cybersecurity, and that's a bit of a trick. But I want security people like me to stop thinking about viruses and routers and firewalls and think about keeping the lights on. Okay, now look at those poles. That's high voltage transmission there. If that front pole in the foreground falls over and you've got to get a 6-ton truck there to fix it, that's not going to be easy. Okay, but I want security geeks like me to be thinking about stuff like that as well, to be thinking in terms of keeping the lights on, not just keeping the viruses out. So it's a bit more mind expanding, and that's why I put that one up there, because when I first looked at it, I said, huh? But yeah, that's a security issue too. It's not my security issue, but it is my security issue because I'm part of keeping the lights on. This thing does not want me to change. Okay, so we hear a lot talked about IPOT convergence, right? This big buzz term. I'm the IPOT person at UTC, and we've had it for a long time. We've had it for a decade at least. So that's a bunch of smart meters, and they're, I don't know, that's in a mall or an office building, just a bunch of office meters. And if one of those meters breaks, you call the metering guys, you roll a truck out there, and somebody goes and fixes the meter. That's OT, that's operations. That's how stuff gets done out in the field. Behind that meter is a dashboard, okay? That's actually probably behind 5 million meters. If that breaks, you don't send a truck, right? You call your data scientist, your programmer, like that. But the point is, they're both part of the same equation, right? OT, IT, it's converged. We've already done IT, OT convergence, we just don't realize it. The security guy has to think about both of those. What are the threats here? What are the threats here? Now, I love this picture because it's both. That's IT and OT all rolled into one. So, well, there's other reasons I love this picture too. I'll get to that in a minute. But, so here's two engineers out in the field, and you can see the one on the right is using a tablet to figure out what he's looking at, what's the status of it. He probably wants to know that wherever he's about to climb is not energized so that it's safe. And for me, coming from a finance, healthcare, typical IT background, I never had software issues that had anything to do with would people get hurt. But when you get into utility work, that's your first concern all the time. Even before keeping the lights on is nobody gets hurt. So it's very important that what's on that little tablet is accurate, and that's the OT part when he's about to go do some IT work. The other thing I like about this picture is it's real, okay? There's lots of rust, there's lots of wear and tear. I'm almost positive those aren't models. It's a real, it's a real world picture. And if you ever try to build one of these presentations, you get all these stock photos where everything's perfect and everything's clean and everybody's dressed, like they went to Hugo Boss before they went to the substation. This is much better. This is what life looks like. But again, that's IT and OT together. And it's very important that the two are working together, first for safety again, and then for efficiency. So again, it's the whole concept of let's all think together. For me, this was a huge transition. I had probably a year when I transitioned into utilities where people just kept saying, Bob, you don't understand. I said, well, yeah, I do. And Bob, you don't understand. And about a year into this career, I said, I don't understand. And that's where everything changed. And then I started to get this. So this is, amazingly, I've only got 2 more slides. This is what happens when the team doesn't work together. This is a convenience store in Ukraine during December of 2015. Now, it's good to know that even in a blackout, you can get Snickers, you can get Twix, you can get Bounty, and those are, you could probably repeat that branding speech about the Ukraine too if you look at this picture. But the attack that caused that blackout, I gave a talk on that yesterday. There was 5 different levels of it, all very simple things, every one of them preventable, but there was not any communication, any teamwork, any collaboration to see this is going on, somebody's infected our network, and so instead you've got people doing business by candlelight and by hand. So just a lot of little things that could have been done differently would have made a huge difference, and 250,000 people wouldn't have lost power 2 days before Christmas in a very cold country. Conversely, this is my last slide, this is a substation outside of San Francisco called Metcalf, and some of you may have heard of it. It was attacked in 2013, and the attack was with rifles. So all the cyber in the world would not have saved this. The people that attacked it knew where to aim the rifles. I know, and I'm not going to tell you. And they disabled a huge substation, millions of people. But there were no outages at all, none. And the reason was because the utility, which is PG&E, had engineered tremendous resilience into their grid. So there was, multiple ways to get power to every customer. So when you lose a major substation, this was identified as one of the 10 or 15 most critical in the US, no customer effect. And the heroes that day were grid engineers who probably done their job 10 years earlier. And me and all my cyber knowledge and cyber tools could do nothing to prevent that. But it's all part of the same picture, right? It's still, I'm part of keeping the power on, the engineers are part of keeping the power on, even collections is part of keeping the power on because they find people that are stealing. And it all has to roll together into one concerted effort to keep the lights on. And as Tebe said at the beginning, if you don't have power, you don't have any of those other industries at all. We get a little too egotistical, we say, hey, we're the most important of all the critical sectors. But in a way we are. Try doing any of those other industries without power. It's really difficult, even agriculture now. So that's just the one thought I wanted to share with you, is the concept of let's all think big picture. Let's get out of our little niches. Let's not say my job is to keep the viruses out. No, my job is to keep the lights on. The engineer's job is to keep the lights on. He doesn't know how to keep the viruses out. Of course, sometimes I don't either. But let's all look at things as a one whole unit working together. And that's really it. It's a very simple message. In 10 slides, I'm done. Okay? Thanks.